Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about load balancing with Laravel Forge and the different methods of load balancing. We will set up a simple load balancer and point it out to two servers. So let's dive in. First, I'm going to create a new server. We're going to call it main LB. It's going to be a Laravel BBS. It's going to be a load balancer as type. We're going to keep in the New York region and I'm going to keep it as small. That's completely fine. Create the server. We're going to copy the password because we will need it at some point. So be sure that you save it in a safe location. Okay. So once your server is created, we're going to add a new site. I'm going to call it Forge. .somniotech.com. I'm going to leave it as a balancing method round robin. And then we're going to add the two servers. So I'm going to add our web host. If you want to know how to set this up, I'll have a link in the description and you will be able to see what we did in the last video. I'm going to add it. Then I'm going to add my second server. Everything looks good. I'm going to create a site. Forge has created a configuration. Our next step is to add the DNS records. So copy this IP address and create an A record in your DNS to point to your specific site. So I'm going to go do that. I finished creating the A record. Now I'm going to create an SSL certificate. I'm going to go to domain, click here, add certificate. Let's encrypt, continue. And that looks all good. I'm going to obtain the certificate. And if configuration is all right, the certificate should show up here. So I'm going to copy the domain now. I'm going to go to the site. And I see that there's still an issue. So let's look at the logs. We're going to go to observe, logs, then Nginx error. So what it looks to me is that we're sending the traffic to the web servers, but we're not getting any answer. And this is because we have different domains into the web servers. When I look at each one of those web servers, it looks that everything is working fine. So there's a couple things that we need to do. We need to come into the domains. We're going to add the domains that we have, the main domains. No redirect. There's no need to add a records. We're also going to make this one the main domain. Then we're going to go into our environment and we're going to change the app URL. I'm going to save it. And normally like to deploy. I'm going to do the same thing on the secondary server. So domains, add the domain. No need to redirect. Ignore that. I'm going to set this up as the primary domain. Then you also notice that I am not adding an SSL certificate in here. That is because the load balancer is going to be the one that is going to be managing the certificate. This is called SSL termination. The load balancer is going to decrypt the traffic and it's going to send it to the web servers. Now I'm going to go to settings, environment. I'm going to change the environment. Save it. And once again, add like to deploy. All right. I'm going to go back to server. Let's reload. And it looks that the traffic is coming, but we still are having an issue. I'm going to inspect. And it looks that the traffic is being mixed. Some traffic is being served at HTTP and some other traffic is being serve as HTTPS. One more reload and everything is working. What I realized was that I completely forgot to set up the trusted proxies. There's a great article in Laravel News from Harris where he explained a little bit more about this. What is happening is the load balancer is sending traffic at HTTPS, but we're only passing traffic on HTTP. So we need to tell Laravel that the traffic has to be sent back at HTTPS. And that's it. All right, so the traffic is working. So let's talk more about balancing and the different methods that we have for that. Balancing is the way to distribute your traffic. There's 3 ways to do it. You can do it round robin, list connections, and IP hash. I have a terminal in here where I can do requests and I'm able to see the response, but I'm not able to know which server is it going to. So what I normally do is like I go into each one of the domains and I like to add this little header in within Nginx. This is the who header. And what it will allow me to do is that I will be able to know whose server is answering on each request. So I'm going to put web server 1 in this one. Let's copy that. I'm going to save it. Let's go to the secondary server. Let's do the same thing. This will be web server 2. Let's save it. All right. So if everything is good, let's minimize this. I should be able to see now traffic with the headers. That will be web server 1. The next one should be web server 2, then web server 1, and web server 2. So that's a perfect example of how round robin works. All right. The next option is list connections. This is my favorite one. Normally, I might have in a cluster multiple applications. And what this does is like it's going to route the traffic to the server with the fewer amount of active connections. Lastly, is IP hash. What this does is like it takes the IP address of the client, then it hashes it, and then it adds a header. So like every subsequent request is going to go always to the same server. I'm going to leave it round robin. And then we're going to talk about waiting in within the service. So the way that this works is like if I change this to 3 and I save the server, what this means is like the first, the second, and the third requests are going to go to web host 1, and then number 4 is going to go to web host 2. So let's test it. It's going to take a second to reset. So that will be 1, 2. This will be 3. So like now let's count it. 1, 2, 3. The next one should be web server 2, and then we start with web server 1. 1, 2, 3, 2. Perfect. So that's how weighing works. So let's say that, for example, you have a beefier server that you want to pass more traffic. That's how you could just give more traffic, just as simple as that. The other option that I normally use is pausing servers. So let's try pausing. Pausing is just as simple as it says. So like you're pausing the traffic. So all the traffic is going to go to web server 2. If I unpause that one, then now the traffic is going to be working on both servers. And if you pause server 2, then all the traffic should be going to web server 1. Now, this is very useful if for some reason you're testing caching in one of the servers, or you're testing something and you want to know like what's happening in one of the servers. I use it. I use it for that. Lastly, what we have is what is called backups. So what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to make my web server 1 the backup. So this is going to make all the traffic go to web server 2. And the only way that web server 1 will get traffic is like if web server 2 fails at any point. So I'm going to force web server 2 to traffic to fail. Let's launch it. I'm going to launch the terminal. Then password. And I'm going to stop Nginx. Once Nginx stops, then traffic should be going to web server 1. So it's acting as a backup. If I turn it back on, traffic should start going back to web server 2. Perfect. Here we are. We learned about the different ways to distribute traffic. We learned about waits, backups, unpausing. Don't forget to unpause your server. It has happened to me before. I was trying some caching and I completely forgot, and all the traffic was just going to one server. This is very useful when we use pausing, but yeah, don't forget. We also learned about adding that who header to know which server is receiving the traffic. It's very useful when you are testing. In my next video, I will explore configurations at the application level so we know our apps are working the right way with multiple servers. Thanks for watching.